How's it going, folks? Stu here. This morning at the London Film Festival, I managed to catch the new Will Smith film, King Richard, which stars Will Smith. He plays Richard. Definitely been a while since Will Smith's delivered a strong sort of central performance which leaves a lasting impression. So I was interested to see how he'd come out on this one. And it's definitely a film, and he's definitely in it. King Richard is the story of Richard Williams, who is the father of tennis stars Serena and Venus Williams. Might have heard of them. And it's essentially kind of a sports biopic look at his approach to bringing them up, especially in the world of tennis, and him trying to make them into big tennis stars, which, spoiler alert, they did it. They are very much big tennis stars. It's directed by Reinaldo Marcus Green, who's a director I've not really seen anything from before this. And as I said, it stars Will Smith in the titular role of King Richard. Now, I was a little bit worried going into this one that it would end up feeling like a big sort of generic sports biopic with someone as big a star as Will Smith giving a generic biopic-y performance. And coming out of it, I can't say that I was wholly proven wrong there, but there is definitely a lot of charm and heart behind the stuff that's going on in King Richard, enough to make it an enjoyable experience to watch, but one which I don't think I'm going to be thinking about for too long, and one which I can't really sit here and say I loved or found to be particularly special. Let's chat about Will Smith first, because it's Will Smith. I'm happy to say that this is definitely the strongest I've seen him in front of me eyeballs for a long while. I'm trying to think of the last great Will Smith performance. I don't know. Let's see what IMDb has to say. What has he done? When's the last? I'm just gonna scroll down until I'm like, yep, he was great in that. Maybe Pursuit of Happiness, 2006. So I guess it's his best role in 15 years. I like Will Smith in this film. I think at the beginning, it takes a little bit to get past the typical Will Smith isms that we just know we're going to get from a performance. But as the film gets going, I do think his performance becomes a little bit more layered. And overall, I'd say he does do a great job with the character of Richard Williams. I don't think I reacted particularly amazingly to it. I thought it was just a good performance, but I do think it's going to sweep a whole load of awards this season. If anything, for me, I think the people around him in the film do a better job. Particularly Serena Sydney, who played Venus. I thought she was brilliant. Always enjoyed watching her on screen. She's just got such a nice energy to her. But also Anjani Ellis and John Bernthal. I mean, the supporting cast in here are really strong, and I don't want them to get overlooked by the fact that it's a new Will Smith performance. So yeah, good work from everyone else. And I think the performances, and I guess Will Smith's in particular, is definitely the strongest thing this film has going for it. I think without him and without them as a cast, it really does lose a lot, because ultimately this is a film which I found to be strangely quite generic and by the numbers in a way which I was hoping it wouldn't be, and in a way it sometimes hints at getting out of. But I think overall Green's approach to the story and approach to the characters does feel like it hits a lot of the beats you expect it to hit, especially in the first half. I think this is a film of almost two halves for me. I started to open up more to it in the second half, and I think it ends up doing things which maybe are a bit more effective, maybe just because things start to wrap up and we start to get more impactful moments for people's stories and character arcs. But the first half in particular for me felt like a bit of a slog to get through. I mean, it's not without its charm and its heart, which is present throughout the whole thing, I'll give it that. But it definitely feels like it falls into a lot of those traps with sports biopics and just biopics in general, which always really bug me and are always big red flags when I see them. One of those is that sort of feeling like it's always constantly just relying on the fact that we know where things end up going to drive things forward. Basically, every scene of the first hour of this film is just like, you're going to be big tennis stars one day. I know it doesn't look like it now, but you better believe we will. And then people going, no, they won't. And then sort of like everyone on screen winking directly at the audience at once. I hate when biopics fall back on that sort of shtick. Always immediately sucks me out, no matter how much charisma you've got behind the people delivering it. And all the time that this film spends with the Williams in Compton, even though it's, I know, essential to the whole story and we need to see where they've come from versus where they're going, it's basically the whole crux of this thing. All the time we spend there feels like a lot of scenes of very obvious sort of like lessons from the dad on the kids. They'd do shit and then Will Smith would have some witty one-liner which is a nice lesson that the kids will learn, and then they go on to do more shit, and then Will Smith says another witty one-liner. Granted, it gets a nice couple of chuckles out. It's a good crowd pleaser, I think, but it isn't really until the second half where this thing starts to come a little bit more to life, I found. But even then, I do feel like this film falls into a lot of the traps that it feels like it's even trying to avoid. There are moments in the second half that do start to feel quite subversive, especially not really knowing much about the story going in. There are moments which look like they could go one way and end up going another way, but then they also sort of end up coming back round to the cliche anyway in the end. And I think a result of falling into convention and the tropes of sports biopics in that sense, for me in particular, is that I didn't really feel like we got a lot from any of the characters in the film, outside of what we A, know ends up happening to Venus and Serena in the real life, because real life, and B, the stuff the film suggests about characters through performance. But I found myself constantly wanting something a little bit deeper in terms of interrogating these characters, because Richard Williams seems to be a very interesting and troubled character, I think, on the whole. I mean, there's a lot of shit that this guy does in this film which feel like huge red flags. And it's not that the film doesn't entirely address any of those. There are definitely scenes in there which hint at these things and hint at the fact that different characters aren't liking what he's doing. But I could never escape the feeling that this film never fully wants to sort of dive into those and look at this character deeper through those lens, which is more frustrating when those things are sort of dangled in front of you. We get really like one scene between Richard and his wife, an argument really, that starts to illuminate on these things, which I find to be the more interesting aspects of this character. And it's like the film sort of like checked it off its list and now it can just get back to doing the sports biopic stuff, which was frustrating to me. But then on the flip side of that, I do appreciate that it's maybe not supposed to be that kind of film exactly, so I understand why it goes for the more crowd-pleasing, charming, sort of heartwarming humor side of it. I mean, you've got Will Smith, milk that charisma for all it's worth, baby. But I just found that in someone that wanted a bit more from that, it was a little bit lacking in that sense. Although, that being said, it is a huge crowd pleaser of a film, and I have no doubt that it's going to do very, very well. And I can absolutely understand why people are really enjoying this. No doubt going to sweep the absolute shit out of this year's award season. So I think Will Smith is going to be having a pretty good end of 2021. But what about you guys? Did you manage to catch King Richard? Are you excited to see it when it does come out? Let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below. We'll have a little chat. As usual, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see me talk about more shit, go ahead and click subscribe. It means you don't miss any future reviews when they drop on the channel, which is a whole lot right now. So I recommend doing it. Click the button. Clicky clicky. I'll see you guys soon for some more thoughts on more films. But until next time, I'm going to go and just like, how do I become a bit more like Will Smith? Because the dude just leaks charisma.